Hello, entrepreneurs. Joe DeCharis, CPA extraordinaire, coming to you live from downtown Bethpage, Long Island, for another amazing Bedrock interview. And tonight we have a double header. We don't have one guest, we have two. Okay, we have Robert Murray and Daniel Fernandes. I was spending so much time trying to remember your names because when it's one person, it's easy. And then I realized you got your names right down there.
Yeah, makes it easier, a lot easier.
So, what do we have in store for us? I know, I met you, what was it, like a week and a half ago on Be Connected. We
Mhm.
should have I should have my Be Connected link up here, but that's another story. No matter how much time we spend preparing, there's always something else we can do, right?
Yep,
But so if people don't know, you got to be invited to Be Connected. You can't just join, right, Robert?
exactly. Yep.
And so I've been reaching out to people because we are what they call early adopters. There's still only like 15,000 of us, I think.
Hmm.
And sometimes, you don't always meet up with people uh, where you connect. Like I think Robert and I connected.
Hmm.
Uh, and so what I learned about Robert is that he's a coach's coach. And I'm a coach, and I work with a lot of coaches. So it only made sense to ask him to talk about his coaching stuff so that we could all get his information for free. So
Exactly.
that's a technique I learned from some of my friends. So Robert, Daniel, why don't you introduce yourselves and let's get on with it.
Yeah. Well, so I'm Robert Murray, and as you said, I'm a coach's coach. So one of the things, just in my journey, obviously, like probably all of us entrepreneurs, had a corporate background and graduated from that, and said, I'm going to do my own thing, and got really good at making a mess of it initially, right? Because we like right when you leave the corporate world, it's like I was leading teams, I was setting up offices in China, India. I got this down. Like I'll have my whole entrepreneurial business set up in 6 months, and then 3 years later, after $100,000 worth of courses and going to events all the time, like, wait, I don't have this thing figured out. The entrepreneurial stuff is a little bit harder. So that led me into coaching, learning how to guide discussions really well. And from that, in the last year, what started happening once you make all the mistakes and you figure out what you need to do things correctly, I started having quite a few coaches coming to me and saying, "Hey, I'm looking to pivot my business, particularly from a one-on-one model to group model. Can you help me do it?" And I said, "Absolutely." And that just evolved naturally into a six a course that we're teaching coaches, and then also a mastermind we're running. So we've developed some really good skills in what it takes to create a high level of engagement in online sessions and particularly group coaching settings. So that's the
So
super quick version. Yeah.
yeah, that's there's no coincidence, as I say, because about 2 weeks ago I decided, I've done one-on-one coaching, and I don't really like it because if you get somebody that doesn't do their homework, it's discouraging, no matter
Mm-hmm.
how much money you get paid. So I was like, what if I did it like in a group setting? I didn't even know that there was group coaching. I mean, I know that there's masterminds, but I'm in some masterminds where there's like no real program. It's just like hot seats and brainstorming. I'm like, I want something structured where we're actually coaching people. And yeah, I guess there'll be some mastermind components to that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So, Daniel, what about you? You're pretty quiet there.
Yeah, well, thanks. So me and Rob go way back, and again, like Rob, I had a corporate background too at General Motors, and I was also facilitating workshops for the executives at GM. That's where I realized that facilitation and coaching was something that really mattered to me. I didn't know like what those things were really called at the time,
Right.
but I engaged in development in my career as a coach for many years. I eventually quit my job and tried the entrepreneurship thing like Rob did, and started real slow, because there's a paradigm shift as entrepreneurs know. And Rob and I were the same coaching certification. That's how we met. And we've kept in touch over the years, and we started working together on group coaching, which is, facilitation techniques applied with coaching techniques, all merged into one. We built this business called Group Coach Magic, where we teach coaches how to run groups, how to do the group coaching in sessions. And so what they can do is create a really powerful experience of transformation for their clients and their participants. And, you said you do one-on-one coaching, right, Joe? So like
I've done it. And I was thinking about getting back into it, but then I'm like, I don't know. For one, the idea of having a group means that you could actually make more money. That's one thing. And I want to I want to motivate a lot of people, not just one person. And I think that's what, that's why I like the mastermind groups. But again, every mastermind group has a different flavor,
You're actually hitting upon a really important principle of leading groups and delivering group coaching, is that, well, while I think there's a really powerful place for one-on-one coaching, there's also a really powerful place for group coaching. And one of the powers of group coaching for coaches is that when you focus more on group instead of one-on-one, you suddenly have this ability to scale your impact, like you're talking about, and also your income, because you can add somebody to the group without a lot of extra time, right? So once you have your group up and running, if you know how to run it really well and keep people engaged and have a really powerful experience, adding people to that can make the group even larger, and you scale your income and your impact without adding a ton of time, right? And so that's one of the powers, the leverage power in going to group.
I'm just thinking, maybe if there was a right situation, somebody that was in that group wanted one-on-one, that might be a good way to do it. It's like 1 out of 20 people do their homework. So instead of working with 20 people to find the one, I'll work with a group, and the one will show up, right?
Yeah. Well, one of the things we're finding is it's usually a both and. So people love the experience of group coaching for the community. They get excited by it. Generally speaking, the way we're running them, people walk away with more energy than they had before they got on it. So it's not one of these things like, I didn't do my homework again, I'm a bad person. You don't want to be that when you get on a one-on-one session. So it's sometimes hard. But the and part comes when sometimes you find people need very specific help with a particular problem. Like we need to walk through this thing, or, they're having a personal problem, which they may not necessarily want to share. Like you're in a perfect situation being a CPA, like group coaching is absolutely fabulous for doing, getting people in the right mindset to be an entrepreneur, teaching some of the basics of it, but they might not want to share their financial situation. It's like, I got X dollars of credit card debt. That's probably not something they're going to, want to talk about on a group coaching session, but they will on a one-on-one with you.
Well, what we're going to do, my idea, and maybe you could help me with this, they don't have to talk about their numbers, but I'm going to teach them how to put their numbers together, what they mean. They can do their, I don't need to see, in other words, it's not going to be like public information. It's just like, this is how you do it, go home and do it. If you want to share. Now they could share like KPIs, like percentages, like my revenue went up 200%, or my revenue went down, but my cash flow went up 200%. That's a good story, right?
Yeah.
I'm super curious, Joe, with the participants in the group that you're creating here, that you're talking about. Like, I think one of the most important points to think about is, what is the outcomes for that group? Like, what do you want the outcome to be for the participants in your group? Like, what do they walk away with each time?
Fundamental financial knowledge. I work with people that are brand new to business, even coaches. So, we have a lot of them. They come out of corporate America. I have clients that are either transitioning out or already out. And they go into business. I have a former college president as a client. And it's like you said, Robert, they get into business and they're like, oh my God, what did I do? I thought that, and the missing piece, because a lot of people, they're good at what they do. They have a passion, right? They're a life coach. They're whatever, a business coach. If they're good, they're going to get business. Okay, just by, even by word of mouth. And it might take some time, but they're going to get business. So
Hmm.
what's the missing piece? The missing piece is the financial piece. They know nothing about cash flow, and I don't know if it was you, Robert, that said you need two things. You need sales and you need cash flow,
Hmm.
right? That came up recently. And
Yeah.
that's what I teach, but they don't know that. And budgeting. They go into business. They're like, they didn't budget $5,000 for a website,
Hmm.
or for an accountant or a lawyer, and they're just like, oh, I'm just waiting. When I start making enough money, I'll get all that stuff, and that's
Hmm.
what I want them to walk away with, at least some kind of knowledge of what they should be asking their accountant.
Yeah.
That's what I want them to walk away with.
Mm.
Yeah. I think what you said, that's super important. It's one of the things I've seen with coaches is they want to, they have a mission. They want to do good in the world. So they're thinking about that. They're thinking about how to get their message and what their course material is and everything else. But they don't stop and think, as you would with any business, like most normal businesses that are less, I'll say, socially oriented. People know that it's like, well, you have to have a revenue goal. You need to go into it. And if you came from a six-figure corporate salary, you have to figure out how to replace a six-figure corporate salary. And oh, by the way, now you're also paying for, support that you didn't have, legal fees. You need to count your
Right.
taxes differently. There's all
So,
these things that you're thinking. And coaches are like very resistant typically to like focus on the numbers. Like, no, 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 I'll worry about that later. I want to focus on the
yeah,
impact.
it's human
Yeah.
nature.
Yeah.
So I want to teach people something that they have no interest in learning, to be honest with you. But
Yeah.
it's like, if you want to get in shape, you can't do it by taking a pill.
Hmm.
Mm.
You got to work out, right?
Yep.
I
You know,
know,
Joe.
because I'm doing that now. I'm doing this thing called 75 hard. And yeah, I feel like I'm in boot camp. But I'm like, because I want to, and it's sort of like mind training. It's like discipline.
Hmm.
Uh, but, so that I understand, I'm I'm doing it, and we'll see how it works. But now, how do you don't cover stuff like that. You just cover like how to run your group,
Hmm.
right, with your coaches.
Yeah.
So where do you start? I guess you start where you asked me, like, what's the intention, right?
Yeah, something you're saying that's making me think about what you're designing for your folks is like there's a large degree of financial knowledge that you need to transfer. So you're going to be doing a certain amount of actual teaching, right? Like,
Yeah,
well, this
yeah,
is how
that's
you
right.
do a cash flow. This is how you do a balance sheet. All those things that that you need to know as a coach. But one of the challenges with knowledge is that it needs to be applied. So I would think something you need to be thinking about in how you design your group and your sessions is around how are you going to take them through a process or an experience or an activity that helps them learn something, but also be like know where to apply that in their
By
business, right?
by having office hours, they can
Hmm.
come. I'll have an open Zoom link. That's what I see. I saw one of my friends do it. He teaches this marketing course, and it's very successful. In fact, I do it, his course, and he meets every week with everybody if they have questions, and then if you're part of his what does he call it, apprentice program, he has open office hours. So yeah, you're right, but unfortunately, like I said, probably only 1 out of 20 of them will actually try to apply it. But I'll be available,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah, it's
I'll,
hard. One of the things we're seeing is that typically people don't learn like if you just spout out information because there's a million like with whatever framework there is, and certainly finances, accounting. There's thousands of really well written books on the topic. There's YouTube videos, there's online courses, everything else that people never complete. And one of the things that we're finding, whoever it is that we're helping, so like let's say we're helping you with this, it's people don't necessarily learn from the information. They don't even necessarily learn directly from experience. They learn from reflecting upon their experience. So typically in our coaching sessions, we'll help the people design an experience. and then give them the space to reflect on what worked, what didn't work. So, just
So the following week, you're going to say like what worked, what didn't work. Okay. I've been
Exactly,
in meetings, like organizations that do that. My coach does it, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. And, to build on that, Rob, something Joe, you mentioned earlier is that, well, in individual coaching, people aren't doing the homework. That's not just true of individual coaching. It's also true of group coaching. It's true of a lot of things. And
it's
so
true of everything.
It's true of everything. Yeah.
It's strange, but that's the way it is.
Yeah. So I like to ask the question, is this homework super relevant? Like, how hot and important is this homework for that person, given where they're at? Because sometimes what we like to do is we like to take the framework that we know and say, like, here, everybody do this homework. But 95% of the people, that homework's not directly applicable for the goal that they have for why they join. So like helping them figure out what is the high leverage action that will actually move them forward in the thing that's critical right now, that is like very important to their life or to their business or to whatever they're joining for. That's really important to help them figure out what that actually, make that the homework rather than the homework,
Right. Well, the good thing about what I'm teaching is they could actually take the information from each class and then take their real information. It's like one of the weeks we're going to talk about personal budgeting, and I'm going to give them my budget. I created a budget tool for business and for personal. They could take it and enter their own info, and then if they want me to look at it, I'll look at it. So, that's my plan. And anything you start with a plan, it changes. But
how critical is that homework? So how critical is that homework for them in their business?
It's up to them. It's how much do they want to get out of it? Do they just want to listen? I've seen people join expensive mastermind groups and they're in the same place as they were 10 years ago. And I realize they're not here they just want the social aspect of it. And that's fine. I have friends in mastermind groups. They've been working, they've had full-time jobs, and with the thought of someday I might want to start a business. And that's fine. But you got to have, what do you want to get out of it? And I know, the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. But so let me ask you some more questions about what you do instead of what I'm planning on doing. What kind of coaches do you work with typically?
Probably a combination. So we work with anyone who has a framework and people who have a unified goal or mission. So one of the things, and actually even we can use yours as an example, but when people bring a group together and they're highly motivated to do something together, we teach them how to create a shared mission together. So like they go on the hero's journey with each other. So Daniel and I are both Brendan Burchard trained coaches. It's called Certified High Performance Coaching. So we just happen to know.
I have his book right over here.
Oh, perfect.
High Performance Habits. I was
exactly.
reading it again.
So we were coaching through that framework. That's what we were doing in our one-on-one practice. That's how we met each other. So we happen to know a lot of coaches. So those are some of the members that we're teaching. But we're also teaching, helping coaches who have a little bit more of a spiritual bent to it. We have people who have a little bit more of a business bent, and they're focusing on coaching people through productivity. They're focusing through clarity. They're focusing through confidence. All of those different issues. The thing that's cool is what we do is that the framework we have is universal to whatever framework you happen to be using as a coach.
I was going to ask you, I'm thinking that the coaching business model is pretty much, well, no, I can't say it's vanilla, but how do they make money? That's what I want to know. They're doing this. So now they're doing this group coaching. I assume that they're already doing one-on-one coaching.
Generally, yeah. And now that we know what we know, we would recommend people starting out with group coaching. You don't have to have. It's not a prerequisite to have one-on-one coaching practice. Most of the people we're coaching have been one-on-one coaches. They've developed basic coaching skills. That's the one thing that's really important is you don't want to show up to, first of all, I don't think you want to show up to just like you wouldn't necessarily want to tell people how to handle their finances without some financial education. You don't want to show up.
People do that all the time.
I know I wouldn't recommend it, but yeah, it's true. People do that all the time. So, I mean, we want to make sure and filter out there's a baseline competency of being a coach, in the first place. So sometimes people get their reps in by doing some one-on-one work, but you could literally, if you wanted to, start out with group coaching, and your first group, you have one person, you got a group of one, and then it can turn into two and turn into three. The beauty of that is you already have that hour allocated. Let's say you're doing it once a week for an hour. You already have that hour allocated. You might as well help two people and get twice the income, or three people and get three times, or four times for the same hour.
Right.
You're going to be spending the hour anyway. So why wouldn't you, if you're going to be allocating that time, why wouldn't you do it in a group format? Because you're going to get just as good results for the participant. So
there's industries like I think dentist, they know how to pull teeth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They don't know how to run a business. So there's companies out there that give them like, hey, here's our software so you could run this business. Is there anything like that for coaches? I mean, I'm sure there is. I just haven't seen any.
Well, what you're really talking about is a tool that the business can use to execute better what they're trying to execute, right?
Specifically for coaches.
Yeah, in the dental industry, that's a software. In the coaching industry, what we are doing is a set of tools that help you run your group coaching way, way better, right? To make the experience more both experiential, transformative, more authentic, and make sure that participants feel a good sense of shared community. Because a lot of group coaching is missing a lot of those elements, right? If you say, how do coaches make money? Well, there's a lot of different ways to make money, but if you want to make money doing groups, the better the experience, the more likely you are to be confident about selling that experience, and the more likely your members are to renew and refer you. So creating a really powerful experience of coaching, of transformation for the people in your group is really, really important. So the tools that we're giving coaches are sort of the software that goes in here, and about how to run these groups in such a way that's a really powerful experience. And so they take the things and they apply them, right?
What about pricing? Do you go through that?
What do you mean?
No, with the coaches?
Like
that's super unique to the coach.
If
right?
I do, really? So if I do this, I can charge $2,000 a month or $20 a month.
Yeah,
it depends.
It's up to me. Okay,
but you don't
do it. Up to you. Yeah.
So can you give me an idea of some of these tools?
Yeah. Well, what we're doing, they're really a framework. I think, as Daniel was saying, they're really an operating system. So just to give you an example, like opening a session, we use something called the GPS for opening session, and that is a grounding to start off with, which helps you shake off wherever it was that you were just before you showed up on the coaching call.
Okay.
Sometimes it's a meditation, sometimes it's a dance party, sometimes it's a treasure hunt. There's all kinds of things that you can do that just like get people there. Like what you want to do is you just did whatever you did. You came in, you had an argument with the wife, or you petted the dog, something that was potentially distracting from being there. So it gets you grounded in there. Then you create a positive frame because you want people to be excited and interested in it, and so you're creating a positive frame for people, and then you get everyone sharing, which gets everyone in the session engaged immediately right off the bat. Everybody's voice is heard in the first couple of minutes of the session, and now they're there and they're prepared to listen, pay attention, be engaged. So that's one example of just like how we open it up in the first 5 minutes of a session.
It sounds a lot like I have a friend that toured with a couple of large rock bands, and he learned, believe it or not, how to create that excitement because he was around it for like 10 years, and that was major excitement. And he saw how like they laid all the pieces out until, even before the band comes out, they have the warm-up act. And it's all about getting the fans excited. They're already in a frenzy before the band even comes out, right?
Exactly. That's a great analogy.
That's a really
Thanks
good
for sharing
analogy.
that. Yeah. We're going to probably just borrow that now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as a musician, I've actually designed those things into my music performances, because if you can bring people along and experience, it's a much more powerful and engaging experience for people than if you just like, hey, here's a song, here's a song, here's a song.
And then you want to make it so you end the next session so they want to come back too.
That's right. So at the
you
end of the
gotta make
session,
like some open loops, right?
Yeah, you also want to make sure that people recognize the value. You want to make sure that at the end you're asking them questions about like what was most valuable in our session today, and have them not only write it down but share it with others, so people are reinforcing the value, as part of the wrap up, right? And you can also do a preview of what's coming next time, absolutely. But I think one of the most important things, especially for you, Joe, and for coaches, is making sure the participants understand why the thing we're here to talk about is important, and why the thing we're here to talk about next week is important, right? So if nobody's doing the homework of making their budget thing that you were talking about, well, then spend some time talking about as a group
why this is important.
Why is this important, right? Maybe we do a tool called the purpose question, where it's like, why is it important for you to be here to talk about this particular tool? And one of the things we teach is we don't tell them why it's important. They tell us why it's important, because we ask them that purpose question. And when they tell us why it's important, everybody's like, yeah, I totally agree. And then everybody's popping in things that, oh yeah, so this is super important, because if we don't do this, now we know this, but it's also, if we do it, we get this benefit. And everybody shared it. It's not me saying it. They are now super enrolled and bought into the process. And now they might be ready to hear you teach about it.
Yeah, and they're engaged and they're part of the whole process.
Yeah. So that purpose question can be a really effective tool to bring people to a teaching point.
Listen, we're at like 26 minutes already, and I try to keep these like 15 to 20, but I got so interested in what you were saying. So let's do this. How do people contact you? Can you put it in the chat box?
You can go to groupcoachmagic.com, and we have a blog there. And at the bottom of every blog entry, there's an opt-in form. You just opt into that, and then you'll get emails from us, and you can just reply to that.
Oh, that's Group Coach Mastery?
Group Coach Magic.
Oh, Group Coach Magic.
.com. Yeah. And, you can email either one of us, Rob at groupcoachmagic.com or Daniel at groupcoachmagic.com, but go check out the blog. We just started up, so there's a couple things on there, but there's an opt-in there. We're sending out emails about some of the tools that we do. And Joe, I recommend that you sign up for it, so you can take some of these things from our emails and apply them right away in your sessions.
Awesome. Do you have any events coming up?
We do. Rob, you want to tell them about our event?
Yeah. Well, we've got it's actually starting this week,
Thursday.
a 6-week training program that's walking people through all the fundamental pieces, like how do you open sessions, how do you end sessions, how do you create magic in them so that people are fully engaged, what are some of the things you have to do with yourself, the pre-flight checkup of getting yourself in a good state before you show up at it, and then some of the ways that you can engage people to keep accountable and to do all the things that they're supposed to be doing on a regular basis, so that to avoid the exact thing that you're saying, which is people showing up week after week, learning and not doing anything. The operating system that we have, we're basically almost guarantees that the participants will get the transformation that they showed up for. Like they can't just sit passively. It's like the way we conduct the meetings, it's not even possible to just sit passively. Like,
it's hard. It's pretty hard.
Okay, so that they could find this on what do you call it? On your website, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
So.
I'm not looking at you because I'm trying to get your link in the chat room.
Nice.
Yeah, it's in there.
We do have some people I can't see for some reason. Okay, I think that's Elizabeth, but we had some people. We can go back and see who was commenting. If anybody has any questions, just put them in the chat. And we got an error there. I don't know why. I don't know. We're having technical difficulties again, folks, as usual. All right. So I think we covered the parting words, how people can get. Did we cover the parting words? What would you tell somebody like me that wants to just start a group coaching business?
Probably a couple of things. One of the things that Daniel and I are doing, and if you want, I can send you the link to this afterwards. But we are offering very inexpensive, just like consulting calls with people, so that you could, like we could hear what it is that you're looking to do and give you suggestions in an hour. And we've been offering those calls at $97, which is about a fifth of the price that we normally would charge. So, yeah,
I might take you up on that.
Yeah. So,
all right.
Yeah, we'll share I'll share the link with you.
All right, guys. And as always, I like to invite you to mastermindwithjoedecara.com. Robert was there last week. We play games, Jeopardy, we network, we learn things from people like Robert and other individuals. We get all kinds of people every week. So I invite you. And if you want to talk to me about your taxes, your business, or you want to learn how to hook up with great people like Robert, just go to timewithjoe.com. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. God bless. And I will connect with you again tomorrow. Thank you.